What's up, y'all? My name is Titus, and I'm here to talk about the best evidence for the resurrection. The reality is, there's a lot that makes our faith different as Christians. There's a lot of things that separate Christianity from most other world religions. However, our entire faith hinges on one monumental moment in history, and that's the resurrection. Don't think of the resurrection as a violation of natural law, but an indicator of something beyond our scientific understanding of the universe. Now, what makes people commit to this greater understanding in a more real way than science fiction? This is a question that's boggled many people all throughout history. But it would have to be the historical commitment of Jesus' followers who believed in the resurrection all the way to their martyrdom. This is not another historical account quite like the apostles' account where they committed themselves to the fullest extent of martyrdom for the cause of the resurrection. There's three main reasons I want to touch on briefly as to why we can have full faith in the resurrection and that it was a historical event. First, the death and the burial of Jesus. Jesus' crucifixion is the most mentioned fact about his entire life. It's mentioned in all four of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, as well as numerous church letters, including Acts, Paul's epistles, Hebrews, 1 Peter, and Revelation. It's mentioned by numerous early Christian writings, including 1 Clement and the epistles of Barnabas and Polycarp, which shows us there's extra biblical accounts that point to the resurrection. It's very unlikely that early Christians would have invented the story that their Savior, their God, the Redeemer, was an executed criminal. It would have been very offensive to most first century Jews. And this is who made up a lot of Jesus' early followers, were Jews. The second main evidence for the resurrection is the historical fact of the empty tomb. This is probably the strongest case besides the gospel writings. Aside from this was the fact that the first visitors to the tomb were women. Women were not seen as credible. There's a quote by Josephus, who was a first century Jewish historian, and he says, "Let not the testimony of women be admitted on account of the levity and boldness of their sex." Obviously, if you were to say this today, it would not be met with the same attitude, but there is something to be said here. It's that the testimony of women in first century Israel was not seen as very credible. So if Christians were trying to build a case for the resurrection, why would they claim that women were the first to come across the tomb? It shows the sincerity and the actual historical account of what happened. Including this, just 7 weeks after Jesus' death, the apostles began preaching a resurrected Jesus in Jerusalem, the very city where Jesus was condemned to die. There was no counterclaim that Jesus did not rise from the dead. It must have been believable. How could Christianity have grown so rapidly if it was so false? This wasn't by the sword. It wasn't through conquest. It was by voluntary commitment to a belief in Jesus. It could have been refuted so easily if they had the body of Jesus, but they didn't. At the end of Matthew, the first gospel, he records an argument that the Jews think the disciples stole the body of Jesus, implying that the tomb was empty. Here's the deal. If that's actually accurate, we would have eventually found the body. We have to talk about the belief of the apostles. They claim to have seen Jesus multiple times between his resurrection and ascension. If people deny that Jesus rose from the dead, they have to admit that the disciples experienced what they thought to be the resurrected Savior. Contrast between this belief, the belief that they knew what they were claiming, and the belief of the terrorists during 9/11, who could only hope for heaven, who could only cling helplessly to the possibility that what they believe is actually true. The disciples would have known for a fact that what they were dying for was either totally true or entirely false. And the fact that every single apostle went to their grave testifying and believing in Jesus is historical proof for the resurrection. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day.